Hello and welcome to the Tech Dirt Podcast. I'm Mike Mausnick.
The world is increasingly technological, so we have better get methodical. Bringing precision to critical digital journalism with the singular vision of a modern monocle. Stopping the copyright bullies from pulling the wool on us. Facing and taking on all the blatant patent trolls. Document the ways that they aim to take control. Scrutinize and view their lies and make them fold. If we don't stand up to them, someone will get hurt. To grab a shovel and dig up the tap dirt. If we don't stand up to them, someone will get hurt. To grab a shovel and dig up the tap dirt.
As many listeners probably know, I'm somewhat obsessed with understanding innovation and business models, and one company in particular has caught my attention over the last few years, and I'm somewhat amazed actually that it doesn't get more attention. While everyone seems focused on the big companies that are innovating in big ways like Apple, Tesla, or Google and Facebook, the most fascinating company to me, frankly, is a small one known as Humble Bundle. Yes, it's the small indie game platform, and it strikes me as a study in innovation, specifically because of a series of different innovations that it has put into its business and its business model that make it work in such a compelling way. If you aren't familiar with it, Humble Bundle started out as just a way to promote a group of indie game developers by letting them offer a time-limited bundle of games and let people pay what they want for it. By itself, this may not seem that revolutionary, but Humble Bundle did a whole bunch of things within this offering that struck me as really clever and really powerful. And it's that combination, or bundle, I guess, of innovations that continues to amaze me. Often, companies find one or two killer features, but Humble Bundle has done it on so many levels. So I'm going to discuss 8 of the interesting innovations that I think are most interesting. Though, to be honest, I have an even longer list of them, but these are the core ones, and then we'll discuss what other companies might be able to learn from all of this. So let's start with Innovation 1, and that's just the bundling. Bundling is an economic idea that is often used, but frequently in ways that people don't necessarily like, such as your cable TV channel bundle. But here it's actually done in a way that seems really compelling, like you're getting a bonus. Innovation number 2. The pay what you want feature. A few companies or content creators have dipped their toes into the water with pay what you want offerings, but no one has really totally committed to it in the way that Humble Bundle did. Innovation number 3, limited time offerings of a week to 2 weeks. Basically, a strong incentive to take the deal now because it's going to go away. Innovation number 4, the leaderboard. With each bundle, there's a leaderboard of the top 10 contributors. In some ways, I've always seen this as an equivalent to Google AdSense. If you pay a premium, you get to effectively advertise yourself by getting your name or Twitter handle on the leaderboard. And it helps encourage at least some to pay larger sums of money for the bundle. Innovation number 5, which is the Beat the Average feature. There are real-time stats on how much has been bought and how much people have paid for the bundle, which is kind of neat on its own, but some of the products in the bundle are only available if you beat the average price. This creates incentives to keep increasing the average price, so as each time people beat the average itself creeps up, and with it, an incentive to buy early rather than waiting until later, so you can beat the average at a lower price. Innovation number 6, adding additional products halfway through the time-limited bundle. I don't know if this has ever actually been officially discussed, but in most Humble Bundle offerings, about halfway through, they announce new products that are included in the bundle. These are automatically given to those who purchased earlier and are in the Beat the Average pool for later buyers. This also obviously encourages people to commit early and gives people a nice additional bonus beyond their original purchases. Innovation number 7, the charitable split. There's actually been academic research on this that says that when you offer to pay a pay-what-you-want deal, if you offer to donate some of the proceeds to charity, it actually leads to people giving significantly more money. And related to this, and possibly a separate innovation, but we'll lump it into this innovation number 7, is that Humble Bundle gives you sliders that allow you to determine how you want the money that you pay to be allocated. So you can split it up between the developers, between Humble itself, or between the charities. And innovation number 8 is that they focus on offering things DRM free. Humble makes sure that people aren't going to have issues down the road with the games that they buy, preferring to make them available DRM free and even offering BitTorrent options for downloading. There are a few other interesting things as well that they do, including making it very easy for people to pay via whatever payment mechanism they like best. But those 8 big innovations are the ones that I actually find most interesting and which I think combine to make it a really powerful platform. Humble has expanded over time, and they now offer a standalone store as well, and many more frequent bundles than when they started. And they've expanded beyond just games, and they've offered music bundles and ebook bundles as well, though the company still mostly focuses on games. Given just how fascinating this combination of innovations is to me, I wanted to have a discussion with our regular co-hosts, Dennis Yang and Hirsch Reddy, about these innovations and what other companies might learn from Humble. So with that, we'll switch it to discussion. Hi, guys.
Hey.
And so what do we think? Is there a lesson to be learned, or is Humble a unique case that only works for those guys?
I mean, first thing that I kind of wonder is, it does seem like they're incorporating a lot of very fascinating strategies, like you said, but does it work when the products aren't digital assets? Or
yeah, I mean, it becomes a lot tougher. People have tried some aspects of, people have done pay what you want,
right.
And there have been experiments with musicians doing pay what you want CDs. And I think it works in some cases, but obviously it becomes a lot more difficult if there's, with digital, you have the zero marginal cost, right? So
right.
even if someone pays nothing, you're not necessarily losing something.
Right,
so,
because basically as kind of you've discussed on Tech Dirt before, like with a product with zero marginal cost essentially has a lot of downward price pressure.
Right, yeah.
Because if you essentially the marginal cost of each additional unit that's sold is zero, then how are you convincing people that they should pay anything other than zero, right? But that's kind of what Humble Bundle is doing,
right? So you could go beyond just the pay what you want, right? So pay what you want becomes a lot more difficult when you have a marginal cost, right?
Right, and you can still pay zero, right, for most of the bundles. Is that correct, or?
I don't know, actually.
Yeah.
I've never tried. I mean, I've bought a whole bunch of the bundles.
I think it makes.
But
I remember their first Humble Bundle, when you put zero, I think they made fun of you.
You can still pay zero and get at least the stuff that's allocated for the below average payments. But I think the interesting thing to also see is that you said you bought a few Humble Bundles, right?
Yeah, I bought a bunch, actually.
You bought a bunch. Did you use, say, even 50% of the content that you got in those bundles?
Not even close.
I've bought a lot of bundles, and I have, to date, to start enjoying even one piece of content that I've bought. I have audiobooks, I have video games, I have all these things, and yet I'll probably still buy some more in the future. So I think there's that element of, this is a great deal, let's just jump on it.
Yeah. I feel like Humble Bundle, the old Woot.com or the new Meh.com. Mike, I know you're quite a fan, or used to be quite a fan of Woot.
I was quite addicted to Woot for quite some time.
And I think there's another one called AppSumo. I don't know if you guys use that one.
I'm very familiar with AppSumo.
All of these, sites are really good at selling things.
Yeah. Well, and in most of those cases, what it really is just the short-term deal, right? And people do it because they don't want to miss out on the deal.
It's a short-term deal, and it's
often
really good deal.
A really, really good deal. And in fact, there are lessons that lots of other people are taking from that. And in fact, we now have the Tech Dirt daily deals on our site, which is that we're partnering with a company called Stack Commerce, and they're doing some of these things, including daily deal and short-term deals, but also some of them include, bundled courses. There's a lot of learning courses, and those are
great.
Our most popular sellers.
I've bought a lot of kind of online courses from AppSumo, just because that it's either free or really, really cheap. And the thing about the online courses, it's the same as any other digital content. It's already created.
Yep.
So they're just basically looking to
And in
sell
our
it
case,
at any price, right?
Yeah, in our case, I mean, it depends. We've done a few different ones, and some of them have been pure pay what you want, very much like Humble
Right.
Bundle. Some of them have just been, heavily discounted and whatever. And definitely, people respond to those kinds of incentives.
Yeah.
Has Humble Bundle itself done any of the sort of educational course sales?
I don't think so. It's
It seems like it would
good
fit for them, though.
question. Yeah, I mean, they recently did one,
Yeah.
which ended not too long ago, which was a little different, which was game developer
Yeah,
tools.
that's the one that's running right now. Yeah.
Well, it's running while we
what's in the
record
game?
this. By the time people listen to this, come on,
right,
don't
we're in
break
the
no, I'm just kidding.
What was in the game developer tool bundle?
There's a bunch of like sprite renderers and like kind of hardcore game development tools and
For 2D games?
for 2D games. And there's I was looking at it today actually. Like there's like SDKs. There's a whole bunch of assets that you can. I didn't dig in it too much, but when you're making games now you can choose from a library of here's a library of trees and here's a library of widgets and animals, and you can kind of basically
Cottages
put them all together.
Right.
And there's a whole ecosystem of kind of asset stores that people are essentially
Yeah.
buying these assets to put into their game. So
Yeah, that's kind of interesting. And we actually, a daily deal that we recently had on TechDirt was actually courses for game development, and
Right.
so we pitched that, and then we also pointed people to the Humble Bundle game developer, which we had nothing to do with, and we didn't get any benefit for. But we said, if you really want to become a game developer, potentially purchasing both of these bundles could be really useful.
Actually, game development is one of those areas where I think there's a fair amount of sort of outright copying as opposed to sort of plagiarism or inspiration even. You see a lot of assets being stolen, sometimes assets for entire games being stolen and converted for use by another developer. It's not just developers in China either. You see it even in the first world. And I
why
think
you got to bring up China like that? No one brought
well,
up China.
well, there's a lot. Don't get me in trouble. It's hard to enforce copyrights in China, and so there's a lot more of a market incentive to
Yeah, I mean, but there's
But is
always,
that
sort of play a little loose with the
been
rules.
pretty
That's not just games, though, I think. I
Yeah.
mean, web development, and especially when you're doing HTML and JavaScript, there's a lot of kind of lifting and
In that case, it's really easy because you can just
Yeah.
do view source
Sure,
and pull
exactly.
it down.
And-
But yeah, with video games, certainly there's if anything becomes popular, suddenly you find a million clones pretty quickly.
But to sort of tie it back to Humble Bundle, I think even though Humble Bundle offers you the zero price, I think there's a sense in which having a proprietary sort of copyright sort of enables a business model like Humble Bundle to exist. If all these game development assets, right, were not protected by copyright, then if people could just grab them off the internet and use them.
Yeah, but you can. I mean, any one of these people could, right? So I guess the difference there is that.
You couldn't, though, because with a game development asset, if you use it without permission, if it hasn't been
Right.
donated,
So legally you
would
can.
get in
Legally you
trouble.
can.
Right. So but
and it actually is. I mean, it's not entirely easy either. Like I've been, I'm working on a game right now, and I'm actually looking for some, from assets and sounds in particular, and I'm looking for free sounds. And there are a few sites that have them here and there, but really there's not that many high quality sources for this stuff, right? So, when I was looking at the Humble Bundle for the game developers, like the price is really reasonable. I mean, you're getting like a whole bunch of resources for, I think the average right now is like $11 or $12.
Yeah.
It's if you want to add the retail price, like it's like hundreds and hundreds of dollars of
Yeah,
product,
and
right?
I think maybe that's true, but I think it goes beyond that. I mean, I don't think the people, for the most part, I don't think the people who are making the purchases in Humble Bundle are doing it, because of copyright, right? I mean, in a lot of cases, the fact is that it's not always true. Now they have some larger developers who use Humble Bundle, but a lot of these are just independent developers, and people are supporting them because it's kind of a nice and.
Is it good for those developers as a business?
I don't know. I mean, there have been mixed reports. I know when they did the first ebook bundle, there was a lot
Yeah.
of talk about that, and
That
some people were saying that it wasn't great. You know,
Right.
that it was good because it exposed a lot more people to their writing. But in terms of, you know, and like I think the first ebook bundle raised over $1 million. But
Yeah.
even once you split it out amongst everyone, people are like, you know,
The game dev one, you know, I think I was just looking. I
Mm-hmm.
don't know how far. I think there's another half day or day left, and they've sold over $1 million worth of product of sales. Right. And what I wonder is like, this is the same kind of thing that people talked about, you know, when Groupon was really popular.
Yeah.
Was that, are you as a business kind of giving away your product, thinking that there's promotional value, but you're not actually, you're not acquiring that customer. Like after the customer gets your, you know, free stuff at a super discount, they come in the Groupon days,
Yeah.
they would come in, you know, maybe buy a little bit more on that first visit, and then write a horrible review on Yelp. You know, that was kind of like
but
the
I think
problem
this
with
is
Groupon.
different than the Groupon situation, right? Because the Groupon situation was always pitched as like this is a way to get new customers who will come back and pay full price later.
Yeah.
I think with Humble, it's much more about
Like, this is money.
this is price differentiation, right? You're getting marginal buyers who wouldn't pay full price for your product.
So it's not channel conflict.
So you're not losing any money because most of these individuals were never going to be customers at the full price in the first place. So it's purely marginal revenue.
Yeah, again, I guess, and then maybe most of these customers aren't even going to actually use half the stuff that's in the
Right,
Humble
which
Bundle.
was the point, right? I mean, so basically, my determination on if I'm going to, you know, buy any of the Humble bundles is like, am I likely to use one of them?
Yeah, so
right?
you get like 20 things.
Right.
So you're paying
then
like
some,
what,
you know,
$20 usually
I mean, it depends on
$10.
what
on average. Like what do you usually?
In the case where I paid for a Humble Bundle, one of them at least, I bought a bunch of audiobooks. And I remember one of my motivations to pay was that I wanted publishers that were actually donating these books to find out that there's a market out there at a lower price than what they're selling it for on audiobook, or what's the name of the site?
Audible.
Audible.
Yeah.
On Audible, a single audiobook can go for like $30. And on the Humble Bundle, I can't remember if it was like 5 or 10 audiobooks, but it was like pay $10, right?
Right.
I was
Well,
hoping that they would
pay
get-
what you want.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
Pay what you want. Yeah.
But I think the average was 10 or something like that. But I was hoping that enough people would buy it that it would encourage the publishers to reduce price.
To at least
But I mean,
experiment with
price is such like a funny thing, right? Like to say that an audiobook is worth $30 or is worth $5 is you can't say that any audiobook just because of the nature of it being an audiobook is worth anything. It has to be the audiobook itself, right? So that's
Yeah, I'm not saying it has an inherent worth or not. I just know what the price is that I'm willing to pay. I know
for a book you don't know
Yeah,
about,
a
right?
book I don't know about, I would never pay $30 for it. It would have to come highly recommended. Whereas if it was like $5, I would make a lot more impulse purchases. I'm
Right.
constantly making Kindle book purchases for like
like-
$5 or $10 for
Yeah.
books that I never actually get around to reading, and I've probably spent like $100 doing that. Whereas I have definitely not bought even a single audiobook.
So
for
why
like
is it in the App Store that it's so pain? Like I feel the pain when I'm toiling over a 99-cent purchase in the App Store.
I don't. I impulsively click on
Really?
99 cents. I'm full of apps. I pay for apps all the time. I buy ridiculous. I just bought like a podcasting app, and that plays podcasts. You know,
Yeah.
not for recording podcasts.
Okay,
And I was
making
and-
sure you're not going elsewhere.
yeah. Are you
And it
cheating
was
on us?
it wasn't a cheap app either. It was like $5 or $10 or
Which
something
app?
like that. I can't remember, and probably for the better.
Way to give them a little
Yeah, I
plug.
can't remember what it is, but Pocket Casty or something.
Yeah,
I don't know,
that-
whatever.
yeah.
So it's a very good app, but it's probably only 5 or 10% better than the previous free app that I was using, or perhaps worse than it in certain aspects. And the thing I was thinking was that, like, you know, I just assumed based on the price that it was going to be a huge leap above, and I actually don't regret the purchase that much. I mean, I've wasted money on other things, but the thing is with Humble Bundle, like imagine that podcasting app was on Humble Bundle, right? I guarantee you there will be a lot more purchasers for it.
Sure.
and they would probably, well, you know, depending on how many other things they bundled with,
Yeah.
would probably get a huge volume of purchases. Because how many people are like me are like so particular about their podcast player that they need to go and buy a $5 podcast player? Like most of them are probably not going to do that.
I mean, it depends, you know, but I mean, that's kind of a specific market. But and in fact, in the podcast market, I mean, a lot of the apps actually do cost money.
So there are only a few that are really free, and the quality of the free ones tends not to be that great. So there has been a lot of incentive. So I think a lot of people do end up purchasing, at least on Android. I don't know about on the iPhone. And so it does kind of depend on the market. Yeah, but yeah, I mean, it could be interesting to see, like, I mean, if it were offered in a different way, like as part of a bundle or something. It makes me wonder. The other area where I wonder, we're talking about Humble Bundle and bundling, and it's always with sort of discrete,
like
products, digital products. But I wonder, do you think it's possible to do it with digital services as well? So, I
mean, they would probably make it like, a bundle of Dropbox, 10 gigs of Dropbox, and then whatever. I mean, what other services would you?
Yeah, so I don't know. I mean, that's just kind of what I'm asking. Like, sure, could you do something that's like, yeah.
I think you could do it for n number of things. I think one of the things, though, that makes these services probably a little bit harder for them to bundle is the fact that so many of them, like things like Dropbox and Google's, various, I'd say App Engine or something like that. Let's say we were going to make a bundle for digital citizens of some sort, right? And how many of those different services come from providers that don't have otherwise competing offerings in the other sections that you would be offering, if that makes sense, right? Like you have Amazon Music storage, and then you would have like Google Photo storage, but then there's also Amazon Photo storage.
Sure.
There's like, you know what I mean? Like so they, like, I don't know if they'd all want to be bundled together. That's one issue. But then again, maybe I'm not being very imaginative about it. Maybe there's a whole universe of other sort of digital services that are just not on my radar that really are.
I mean, I could see potentially, where there are services that are more narrowly focused. Like
like an online dating bundle, like every online dating service together in one.
No, because I think that's interesting. Though I think that would run into Hirsch's problem, where they wouldn't want to do that with each other. But I could see like security bundles, right, where you could have like a VPN and a firewall and a antivirus and I don't know what else, right? Where
how do you bundle a subscription service?
Well, that's what I'm asking.
They would figure that out. I think you could be like, hey, for one price you get 3 months of the VPN or however many bytes of whatever. I feel like anybody that's charging for a subscription service can figure out how to have a promotional value or sell a certain amount of value for it, right? So
yeah, and I think if part of the deal is that you're getting it for effectively cheaper than if you bought all of them individually, there could be value there that people would go for.
We could do an Uber for X bundle where you have all these services bundling all sorts of credits together. You pay $20 and you get a whole bunch of credits, which frankly they're giving away for free right now anyway. And
right.
That feels actually like not a bad user acquisition that maybe I'll put together and try to sell.
That's a pretty good idea.
It's kind of interesting.
Good idea,
Stop the
Dennis.
podcast and get to work.
I was going to say, though, I feel like, when we're talking about these things, there's a certain amount of opportunity that Humble Bundle just leaves on the table. And I think
how so?
It's the opportunity of actually giving some value to the user in terms of curation. And I feel like that's lost because when I look at the game bundles,
but they are curating. I mean, I think isn't
I
that
think
what they're doing?
It's opportunism, right? They just put together whatever can sell.
No.
What's the curation?
And in fact, it depends. But
the bundles are. Yeah.
In some of them, they've actually done very careful curation. In fact, they've even had like they've named the curator. Like the first ebook bundle was curated by Cory Doctorow. And so they do things like that.
Maybe that was a good one. I've bought an Android game bundle where I was just like installing them, and they were just like not quality games.
And a bundle of games for Android. There you go.
I know, but that doesn't mean they have. There's a lot of good Android games. You know what I mean? Like these were not the best.
No, that's
Android games.
fair because I often buy the Android bundles, and they are kind of random in terms of what's in there, or at least it feels random.
And not only that, do you feel the quality is consistent? Like they've actually gone through.
Of course not. No,
that's the thing I mean.
But
right?
some of them are good, and that's the thing though. If you're buying a bundle,
but that's not curation, right? If some of them are good, if it's another thing if you basically say here's the things that we've collected,
but that's
and they're
kind
all
of
good.
well, okay, well that's interesting, but but still, with the nature of bundles is that I mean, maybe you care, but I don't personally care. If I get, 7 games out of this and I find one to be something that I actually end up playing, like I actually find that bundle worthwhile, even if 6 of the games were terrible.
So then that's actually the opposite of curation. That's like saying, let's throw these 7 together, hoping that one of them hits on you, right? So
You are not valuing your time there, Brian. Like I don't, like, you know what I mean? Like I don't want to play through 6 crap games and find the 7th gem. You know?
But I mean, I can figure it out pretty quickly if I'm gonna stick with it, and I can usually, when just looking at the bundle, say like, these 2 games are ones that are worth trying, and I won't even install the other ones because I don't need to.
you're
But
judging the book by their cover. They're probably pretty good.
absolutely. And so, when it comes to these kinds of things, you got to make those kinds of snap judgments. But let me take a step back, because I think we focus on two of the aspects of the innovations here. One is the bundle, and the other is the pay what you want. And those are sort of the 2 most recognizable
I think
things.
average price is my favorite one.
Yeah, and so let's talk about that. And, like,
Leaderboard is my favorite.
so are those ideas applicable to other areas?
I don't know. I mean, so leaderboard is ridiculous. I mean, I don't understand.
No, I think
I don't
it's-
get why
in the long term-
someone is paying. I was looking on the game developer bundle. The top guy paid over $200 for an average price of 11. Right? Like
It's
what,
the
what do you do
patronage
that?
and bling model, and
It's-
that works
yeah.
really well in China. And I heard there's like some kind of a
Again
chat
with
service.
China.
They have some kind of a service where people sing in front of video cameras, and then they stream it, and a lot of people watch, and then and the people buy presents, digital presents
that's
for
a
the
huge thing.
for the singers, and
That sounds like cam girls.
It's very, very similar.
except it's much more chaste, than
Right,
that, right?
but it's
Not
it's,
that I know what that is, but
it's huge in China, where it's just
But here's the thing: you can buy these specific things, like a limo that you can roll onto the screen with, and stuff like that. And the value of that is really just showing off in front of these virtual
self-promotional,
crowd, right?
But that's why I compared it to advertising.
I mean,
'cause it's like an advertisement.
I guess I get it. I mean, I guess for the customer that wants that kind of promotion, that the leaderboard product is for them. For the average price product, I think it's for someone that wants more value, but is kind of a cheapskate. So you're like, okay, well, why should I pay above the average? So I think that's a fascinating product to me, because it, as Mike said, it's actually, as people keep beating the average, it keeps moving up, and I think it actually also incentivizes early purchase, because you get to buy stuff kind of early, right? That was one of my favorite, I think, music models. I always thought there would be a cool way to sell music, which is if you're a musician, the first 10,000 people to download your track get it for free, and then every incremental download after that.
There was a site that was trying to do that, and I don't think it really went anywhere. But it was this sort of interesting thing where if you it was sort of the hipster music model, which is
But I feel like
if you get in early, it's cheaper, and then as they become more popular, it becomes more expensive.
I think where they went wrong with that hipster model is I think the early purchases needed to be purchases with time, so you had to listen to the whole song all the way through. Like I think if they did that would be really interesting, right? So it's like you get it for free if you actually listen to the whole thing. Or, I don't know.
Yeah, no, it's interesting.
So imagine doing something like the average price model, but to fundraise for, like, say, a movie, right? Where you say everyone who pays more than the average gets credited as a patron.
So
right?
you sort
or
of
maybe
mix the Kickstarter and Humble Bundle kind of.
And actually, don't even make it the average. So you have to donate at the 80th percentile level before you get credit.
Well, actually, I mean, Humble's added something like that. They actually, I didn't discuss it in the opening, and it's a more recent addition, but they have both the beat the average price, and then they sometimes will have an even higher price to get like a couple extra super special things that the average price is $5, but to get these two other games
like in the top quartile or
yeah
something.
I don't even know if they say how they calculate it, but they say like you have to beat this price.
That's exactly what I mean. So for example, you attract the hipsters early on. Let's say there's something like a Warcraft movie, right, or something like that. Actually, there's an actual movie.
Are hipsters watching Warcraft movies?
No, I don't know what's
just the Hirsch.
Okay, Firefly. Right, that's something like a hipster show.
Much hipster, but go on.
And much more hipster. Anyway, so you reboot the franchise, right? You say, hey, you got this bundle, and the 99th percentile guys get to make a cameo in the movie, right?
Okay.
And let's say 50th percentile or whatever, 80 percentile get to basically have credits in the movie, and maybe have some other prizes, right?
Yeah. So it's like a Kickstarter, but where the tiers move
Exactly.
based on how people are paying, and the incentives are to continue to increase it or to get in early.
It's like a silent auction,
Yeah,
sort
kind
of.
of, but a more. Yeah, that's really interesting.
And but here's the key part too, right?
Uh-oh.
If you're early enough
Yeah.
to start donating, right? I mean, you can get to be in the movie for, let's say, $50 early on.
Right. If you're first.
Yeah. But here's the thing. What if you don't tell people what the 99 percentile level is?
That gets tricky because then you get people pissed off, I think you need the transparency because otherwise if people are just guessing,
And they pay $100 and they get nothing for it.
yeah, that's
You're right.
that's
That
going to
would
upset
just-
people. I think you need the transparency because also when you have the transparency and you have the dollar amounts clear, then people know,
Yeah.
you know, like, okay, I need
And it
$100
it
to
starts feeling
get
like-
into the movie.
Like the penny auctions. Remember those? So
Yeah,
like
those
you-
are just pure scams.
It's a pure scam. You pay a penny for the chance to win the product, and eventually, yeah, those are.
Yeah. No, those.
spend a
I
million
think those are
pennies.
illegal now, aren't they? So
I think so. I don't know for sure, but that was a big scam
that's
for a
scammy,
while.
Hirsch. Don't do that.
Yeah. Hirsch, we don't like your system anymore. But no, I mean, I think if
It's
you
not my system. It's a Firefly system.
if you keep it, yeah, okay.
It's not. I'm kidding.
If you, yeah, now we're gonna get sued by the producers of Firefly. No, I think if you keep it transparent, which is what Humble does, and in fact they make everything very, very transparent, and a lot of the sort of copycat services that have followed where Humble has gone, they also do it in that way. And I think that's really interesting. I just love incentivized systems that that work in that kind of way. And so, I mean, were there any of the other? I mean, we didn't even mention like the charitable split. It's one that everyone sort of.
The thing about the split part, I think it's kind of hidden at the bottom of the Humble.
Yeah, but I mean, they do mention the charity, right? Like some
guess
of
so.
your donation will go to charities.
I feel like, I mean, there's just so much stuff packed into
Sure.
a Humble, and for, like, I hadn't taken a look at it Humble for a while. When I was looking at it today, it was just like, whoa, like they kind of went crazy with the product.
Yeah.
Which I appreciate, but at the same time, it also, like, simple is not something that I would describe Humble Bundle as, right?
Yeah,
So-
I mean, but it's not that complicated.
It's
is it
pretty
really?
like we're in a day where basically like the most complicated transaction, right? Like people are still kind of daunted by the whole concept of eBay and bidding on something. Like it's difficult for someone to kind of look at a product and be like, wait, I don't have to pay what? And then I can choose where the money goes, and then all of a sudden, you know what? I kind of looked at it, it's too much, and I gave up, right? So
Yeah, I mean, it's a good question. I mean, I wonder how many people abandon a Humble Bundle purchase.
I kind of want, like, if like they can probably notice, they can do some bounce catching in terms of, like, if you're just about to leave and you haven't purchased, just be like, you know what, we boiled it down. This is the really simple thing. You can just buy it for $12 and you're
Well,
gonna
they
get
actually do. They do make it pretty easy. When you click to buy, they put in a preset amount.
Yeah,
and
they
then
do.
you do have to change it. And then the splits are preset, and I imagine most people don't change that.
Yeah.
I always change the split, and maybe I shouldn't admit this,
Yeah.
but I always set the charity contribution to 0. Because I just figure if I'm going to give
terrible human,
if
being.
I'm going to give to charity, and I do give to charity, I give separately anyways. Why do I need to go to Humble Bundle to give it?
Sure, that's
Yeah.
fair enough. And then I mean, for a while there was all this talk because Notch, right, the guy who created Minecraft, he used to always get in on the Humble Bundles and often would donate the most to be at the top of the leaderboard. And then at some point, he actually admitted that he does the opposite of what you did,
He just
which
does
is
100% charity.
to 100% charity. And people are like, well, hey, wait a second. That's kind of screwing over the indie developers who you should probably be supporting as well.
Oh, Notch.
But it's, I mean, everyone does I guess,
Yeah.
so he cancels out you, Hirsch.
But that's kind of the point of it. I guess
Yeah.
the sliders is that you can do what you want, right?
Yeah,
So,
and I kind of, I like that element that it gives people.
It makes them feel
Yeah.
good. It's true. And I should really probably do it. I'll probably feel better about myself if I do that.
I don't know, but I mean, but there have been studies that show that that if you do pay what you want with a charitable component, people pay more, and to the
Yeah.
point that it actually makes more money for the the other person. It doesn't take away from the revenue that's going to the
right.
individual
Whereas, like,
doing the selling.
I use smile.amazon.com all the time, and that's not like a sliding scale. So
What does that do?
that basically a percentage of all of my Amazon purchases, of which I make a lot, go to a charity of my choice. So
Really?
Yeah.
Why isn't that the default?
Right? And well, they actually do a good job of it where now that I'm signed up for it, every time I go to the normal Amazon.com, they're like, don't you want to go to Smile.Amazon? So, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, so it's actually, it's kind of a no-brainer. If you're going to buy from Amazon, you might as well do that.
Right.
Jeez.
If you're not using an affiliate from some other
Right.
site like TechDirt, where you
Yeah.
give us extra.
Interesting.
we could be the chair. Anyways, leaving that aside. All right, let's do final thoughts on this one. And I mean, I'll just start off and say again. I mean, I there's just something about what I find fascinating is that they've sort of packed all these sort of really interesting innovations into something that I think really just works well. And I just every time I look at it and think about it, the fact that these incentives all sort of play together in a way that is really compelling. I just find it really exciting. I'm surprised that more people aren't talking about it.
Yeah, no, I hadn't honestly, Mike, given them much thought, and I mean, it hits upon so many themes that I actually do enjoy thinking about in terms of like curation and interesting business models, and frankly, how to get people to buy anything, right? And I think that's really interesting there. I've always been a fan of Woot and Meh and what those guys have been doing, and I'll definitely be watching what Humble does now. So.
And there's another thing which is definitely not unique to Humble Bundle, but just the simple menu, right? The fact that they've got one thing running now, right?
Yeah, that's true.
And that's I think that simplicity sometimes works against you, but a lot of times it works for you. You go there, you check it every week, you see if what they have is something you're interested in, and you're done in 5 minutes, as opposed to go to Amazon webpage and you're just like, what?
But in the same way, I mean, the target market for Humble is a lot narrower than Amazon.
Absolutely.
Right? So
Yeah,
they have that going too.
Yeah, but it's a really interesting company, and it's been neat to see what they do, and interesting discussion with you guys. And thanks to Dennis and Hirsch for joining us, and thanks to everyone for listening. And we will be back next week.
Someone will get to grab a shovel and dig up the tap. If we don't stand up to them, someone will get to grab a shovel.